Imagination. Mord, naturally, attained this power the very year he unlocked it, leaving the common folk utterly astounded. However, an elite individual, one such as Kessner, is awestruck, bearing witness to a talent that eclipses his own. His own achievement, awakening to divine blood, in a mere 4 years, is rendered insignificant, reduced to dust. Daisley, somehow perceiving the silver eyes before the white hair, is the first to grasp the immeasurable extent of Mord's power, finding himself paralyzed, too stunned to react. Mord casually delivers an ultimatum to Daisley. Choose between surrender and humiliation, or death with his dignity intact. The moment the old man selects the latter, he lacks even the time to blink before Mord obliterates the distance between them, sending him crashing down with the same technique as before, but amplified to an infinite degree. Even anticipating the attack proved futile for Daisley. Upon confronting the divine blood firsthand, Daisley trembles where he lies and contemplates his defeat at the hands of a 15-year-old prodigy who, even with his sanity intact, is demonstrably not your average adolescent. Having his left arm effortlessly shattered, Daisley is consumed by a surge of arrogance that obscures his ability to perceive the disparity in their power. A striking irony given his vast experience and responsibilities. He lunges forward with a desperate final assault, but it meets an abrupt end when he truly comprehends why Abernus discards his weapon after unlocking his full potential. It's because the body ascends to a state that utterly transcends the capacity of even the keenest blade. To give the old man his due, he genuinely demonstrates superior combat prowess by luring Mord with a reckless jab, attempting to catch him off guard. However, his hubris also blinds him to the utter preposterousness of the bloodline he's been honing, for his strike fails to even graze his opponent. Mord glances back at the trembling, armored old man, who might be contemplating enlightenment at this juncture, as his honed skills were utterly negated in the presence of a superior entity. This precipitates a descent into madness as he fruitlessly assaults Mord's impervious form. Mord expresses his disillusionment that Daisley was ultimately nothing more than a man intoxicated by power. His abilities are deemed utterly pathetic as Mord reverses their roles, educating the ignorant master on the supremacy of the lineage of the god of struggle, a power that transcends all others. He then wields the very blade Daisley used against him, unleashing a devastating surge of energy to utterly obliterate the old man, leaving him with catastrophic emotional and physical trauma. Daisley collapses, desperately clinging to consciousness. After brutally dismantling Daisley's career, Mord offers a semblance of mercy, but in a manner that would force even the most arrogant individual to concede defeat, regardless of their monumental ego. Daisley finally comprehends that victory was always beyond his grasp and concedes defeat. The crowd erupts in a cacophony of astonishment. To witness Abernus' bastard vanquish a seasoned master leaves them utterly bewildered. Yet Kessner, with a surge of pride, eagerly anticipates Mord's future development and potential. The boy has displayed feats of unfathomable prowess in a mere 8 days since arriving in the duchy. Satiated by the spectacle of such an exceptional duel, Kessner departs. A chorus of cheers and demands for an encore reverberate through the crowd. But amidst the jubilant throng, a cloaked figure stands obscure. This enigmatic individual seems to be assessing the subject of everyone's fervent discussion. The hood is drawn back, revealing the enigmatic observer to be Erna, 7th in the esteemed Byrna's bloodline. She is visibly captivated by Mord's triumph, remarking that she has discovered a ferocious tiger cub, not just a bold apprentice. Her words carry a certain weight, considering her deceptively youthful visage, paired with a physique as imposing as a JoJo's character. At Byrna's castle, Mord genuflects before his grace, Archduke Byrnus, who appears remarkably unmoved by Mord's swift ascension to warrior status. Consequently, the Archduke is now compelled to honor Mord's petition, to endeavor to conquer the dungeon of the god of struggle's tomb. However, the Archduke has further matters to address concerning Mord's ascension to warrior status. This achievement was accomplished through the essence of the god of struggle. Mord asserts that he merely utilized this power to expunge the stain of his master status, an act that draws no condemnation. as he demonstrated superior strength in that conflict, thus legitimizing his claim. Nevertheless, the Archduke harbors a subtle vexation at Mord's concealment of his true capabilities. He looms over the 15-year-old boy, his gaze piercing. Yet he acquiesces to Mord's palpable fabrication. Regarding his sole dedication to mana manipulation, they subsequently deliberate on Mord's role within the God of Struggle's tomb. However, a mere subordinate of the Archduke voices apprehension about an unsanctioned individual being granted consideration, suggesting that such a decision might displease those officially recognized. The Archduke swiftly dismisses the soldier's trivial inquiry by reminding him of his rightful position, and thus, Mord is granted leave to challenge the dungeon. He departs with the Archduke's benediction, which elates him, bringing him a step closer to his ultimate objective, discovering the path to universal harmony. While Mord may be the central protagonist, even he seems insignificant before the colossal dungeon gate, which emanates a potent and menacing aura. Kestner underscores the gravity of this quest, cautioning Mord. This dungeon could be your final destination, unless you somehow manage to escape its clutches. Mord feels a surge of anxiety, as another one of his predictions proves inaccurate. However, Kestner attempts to reassure him, commending his punctuality and preparedness. He bids Mord farewell with encouraging words, as Mord absorbs the ethereal atmosphere emanating from beyond the immense portal. He contemplates the significance of this location, the very threshold where God Burnus achieved divinity. The tomb, now known as the dungeon, symbolizes his abandonment of human nature, a concept consistent with the legend of his immortality, death being a fate reserved solely for mortals. Mord thrusts open the door and strides towards the radiant portal, which emanates an aura brimming with the ambition of discovering inner peace. Within awaits someone, an individual who will aid Aiden 7 years in the future. When he endeavors to achieve this from the external realm, Mord possesses extensive knowledge. Yet his foresight cannot predict this man's triumph. He deduces that he must ascertain the precise route detailed in the original novel, for the method by which Aiden discovered it remains undisclosed, save for seeking symbols seemingly replicated. 6 markers must be traversed, each representing a facet of the deity of strife. Mord must locate these emblems of life's struggles. However, a new obstacle emerges: hellhounds, canine entities that exhale fire, more menacing than any unrestrained earthly dog. 2 of these beasts lunge at Mord as if he were mere carrion, awaiting their imminent roasting and consumption. However, one unfortunate creature has its cranium obliterated by the suave assassin Mord. The other is bisected by a concentrated blast of ki. He stumbles upon a peculiar marker, deducing that the deity of combat was a genuine sadist, one who reveled in flaunting his triumphs before the masses. The marker portrays Eden, a colossal, 2-headed ogre vanquished by the god in his youth. However, the true subject of the marker is the god himself, immortalized in the moment of Eden's defeat. Yet, it's concealed at a dizzying height, rendering its discovery a formidable challenge. Mord effortlessly ascends, propelled by mana, landing with the agility of Spider-Man. Not only does he locate the marker, but he also discerns the reason behind the physique of the god's progeny, taking after Baki because Burnus, the deity, possessed a physique more imposing than a modern bodybuilder enhanced by steroids, all at the tender age of 10. Mord then transitions into his divine blood release form, lacerating his forearm deeply to unleash his potent blood, and releases it onto the marker. This is an esoteric technique, one that would be virtually impossible to decipher otherwise. But even the deity of combat lacked the foresight to consider the 4th dimension. Therefore, anticipating Mord's arrival into this realm was beyond his capabilities. Mord springs back to the earth and hastens to locate the next marker, eager to acquire the world peace. But as he departs, the statue abruptly begins to fracture, casting a dramatic sidelong glance at the oblivious Mord. Colossal serpents, infernal hellhounds, and skeletal remains from the underworld, undead knights, and a multitude of other creatures materialized in Mord's path to the next marker. As if nightfall had descended upon a Minecraft world, he skillfully dispatched many of them, but their numbers seemed endless along the straight path, rendering them inescapable. This resonated with Mord, for the tomb belonged to the god of struggle, whose sole disposition was to unleash destruction with the fury of the Hulk. Even if one dared to scale the towering ramparts, the deity ensured the intervention of monstrous raptors, wicked eagles of immense size, swiftly descending to attack. But having already secured 5 emblems of the god of struggle, Mord pressed onward, vanquishing these formidable adversaries. However, as he neared the 6th emblem, his mana regeneration and expenditure became precariously balanced, severely depleting his magical reserves. The blood ritual at each marker, demanding a sacrifice of his divine essence, exacerbated his exhaustion through the release of his celestial blood form. At last he encountered the 6th emblem, a colossal dragon statue, its gaze fixed upon Mord, rendering him insignificant, a mere mote of dust in its presence. Leaping to and fro from the statue's immense form proved exhausting in itself. But before he could even commence this arduous task, a gargantuan ogre materialized before him, blocking his path. This behemoth transcended the capabilities of ordinary magic wielders, rivaling the initial prowess of body armament and sword impulse techniques. With his mana dwindling precariously, the odds were stacked against him. The ogre proved a formidable adversary for Mord. With savage force, the ogre slammed its fist into the earth, but Mord deftly dodged the blow, narrowly escaping. He scrambled aside, casting a wary glance at the behemoth, and realized it dwarfed a typical 4-meter ogre, potentially surpassing even 5 meters in height. The ogre continued its relentless barrage of attacks, presenting Mord with a genuine challenge for the first time in this labyrinth, compelling him to judiciously expend his mana throughout the grueling fight. With a flurry of blows, he managed to momentarily repel the ogre, unleashing a combination of powerful punches. But the monstrous creature regained its balance, seizing Mord in its massive hand, and hurling him like a projectile into the unforgiving stone wall. The jarring impact forced Mord to reassess his tactics, delivering a harsh dose of reality. He recognized that he had become complacent, for he was still but a novice, albeit one with extraordinary physical prowess. Had he been even a split second slower in this epiphany, the ogre would have crushed him to oblivion with a single devastating blow. Mord then unleashed the potent force of his divine blood, activating its released form for the 6th time, a realization that filled him with vexation. He channeled his fury into swiftly dispatching the ogre, pulverizing its face into the earth until it disintegrated into nothingness. Standing atop the monster's lifeless remains, Mord condemned his own flawed assessment, finally cognizant of his shortcomings. For the truth was starkly presented to him. A mere 15 members of the Bernos lineage had dared to challenge this dungeon. Naturally, his meager understanding of the world proved insufficient. He resolved to acquire fundamental knowledge. Upon escaping the dungeon's depths, vaulting onto the final marker, the first question that arose upon seeing a